Hey, I'm live. All right. Let me get it. What's going on with my thing here? Okay. Let me get on Facebook myself. So all my Facebook friends get where we at here. Okay. There we go. All right. I'm live. All right. Come on and join me. On Facebook myself. So all my Facebook friends get. All right. Facebook myself. So all my Facebook friends get. All right. Facebook myself. So all my Facebook friends get. Right on my friends here. Right on my friends here. WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye. All right. Let's go ahead and get them started here. Stuff away. What's up, Brother Howard? Thanks for joining us. All right, we're going to get them started. All right, here we go, y'all. Hear that theme song? Yeah. Those of us that enjoy or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation. We do so because change of impression amongst deep and difficult. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye. I'm your host and third eye optometrist, Patrice Gibbs, right here on WHGE 95.3, the education station. And as I always tell you, we got something hot for you today. There's so much going on in the world, I almost don't know where to start. But you know what? I'm going to do something that I did last week, just to give you an idea which way the show is going today. All right. In case you might have missed the opening last week or heard the opening and got a little confused. Okay, listen to me. I am a black man. The blood of the Nile flows through my veins. The pounding of the drum is the rhythm of my heart. The wisdom of the ages dwells in recesses of my soul. Oneness with the Creator sustains my spirit. Mother Africa, cries for me in anguish, for I was ripped from her womb in my infancy. Neither capture, slavery, oppression, segregation, miseducation, integration, assimilation, immorality, nor manipulation could deafen my ears to Mother Africa. Seek your brother and sister, she cries. Nothing can stop me when I stand with my brother and sister. Take heart, my brother and sisters. Tomorrow could be ours if we would seize the day. For we have always owned the night. We are Africans. This is the Open Eye. As I always tell you, I know you can't wait for Saturday morning at 11 a.m. to get on the Open Eye. What is the Open Eye? The Open Eye is the show to open your third eye, to guide you along the way out of the abyss of oppression. Never let it be said that no one tried to guide us out of the abyss of oppression. On WHGE 95.3 FM, we have a full week of programming. Of course, every day, or daily, especially want to tune in this month because it's so special. Black History Month, of course. Every day at 6, our illustrious leader with Black History Facts and Reflections. Tuesdays, on one of our new shows, Health News and Views You Can Use with host Susan Renee. On Fridays, the Living Jackson Show at 5. Of course, that's followed by Black History Facts and Reflections at 6, which is followed by No Joking, Stop Smoking with award-winning host Raheem Darden, who is also on Sundays with Fixing Addiction at 7, following Black History Facts and Reflections. On Saturdays at 1, on the second and fourth Saturday, is Voices of the Delaware Africa Coalition with esteemed host, Dr. Kalichi Lawrence. That is then at 4 on Saturdays, Eddie J's Sports Zone. Everything you want to know about sports, you want to tune in to Eddie J. At 5 on Saturdays, we have the Weekend Review with host Alan Lawrence. If you want to know what's going on, what's been going on, you definitely want to tune in to Alan Lawrence at 5. All right. I got this story, it's Black History Month. Of course, we don't wait until February to celebrate our history, but when we find something special, we definitely want to recognize it. I came across this story from my Facebook friend and personal friend, Sherry Bryson, who posted this. This is a story about a woman named Maud Callan. A year after graduating from the Georgia Infirmary, she moved to Pineville, Berkeley County, South Carolina, as an Episcopal missionary nurse. The position was intended to be temporary. She was one of only 9 nurse midwives in South Carolina at the time. Callan operated a community clinic out of her home, which was miles from any hospital. It is estimated she delivered between 600 and 800 babies in her 62 years. In addition to providing medical services, Callan taught women from the community to be midwives. She provided in-home services to an area of some 400 square miles. Then with muddy roads, serving as doctor, dietitian, psychologist, bail goer, and friend to thousands of poor, most of them desperately poor patients. Conditions in Berkeley County were difficult. At the edge of the hellhole swamp in Pineville, houses were still lit by oil lamps, not electricity. Not having power lines meant no telephones, and people went to town by wagon or buggy. Nurse Maud recalled that there were only 2 cars in Berkeley County and none of the roads were paved. Many of her patients arrived at her home in ox carts in the middle of the night. She frequently had to park her car and walk through mud, woods, and creeks to reach her patients. Nurse Maud once refused an invitation by President Reagan to the White House, saying she just couldn't up and leave her patients. She died in South Carolina at the age of 91. Let me live in my house by the side of the road and be a friend to man. Maud E. Coward. You know, I wish medicine was still about taking care of your fellow man, not business, not politics, not nursing a computer, not profit. We need more people in the world like Maud Coward. This is the Open Eye. Yeah, how many of you knew about her? All right, all right. I see some of my friends. What's up, Roger? How you doing, Sherry? Brother Vaughn. All right. Let me get back to some of this information here. Oh, we just hitting the preliminaries right now, y'all. I haven't even gotten my stride yet. Oh, but I'm coming. Don't you worry. Don't you worry about that. Oh, I got something for you. All right. You know, wait a minute. Where we at here? Let me get myself straight. Wait. More of that later. Okay. You know, like I said, you know, this is Black History Month. We do Black History 365. Good news about Black history. The 13th Amendment ended slavery. Bad news. The 13th Amendment created racist mass incarceration. And then really mass incarceration, which is crazy, which, you know, as we look at it, seemed to start in the 80s. Well, actually, it started earlier than that. Okay, yeah. Let me read over this here. Exactly 155 years on January 31st, 1865, the 13th Amendment was passed by the House of Representatives following Senate passage 9 months earlier. Although that amendment says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States, it also says, except as a punishment for crime. In other words, Northern congressmen allow Southern congressmen, i.e. traitors, who engaged in or promoted armed insurrection against the U.S. government, to add that except language in order to permit Southern states to concoct vagrancy, loitering, curfew, and similar black code laws for the purpose of arresting, prosecuting, jailing, and convict leasing millions of recently freed black men, women, children, and their descendants. Basically, they used it to re-enslave people. And this was, you know, this was the birth of mass incarceration, which continues in 2020, primarily as a result of American drug laws. Now, I will tell you about the populations of prisons. Up into really the rise of the civil rights movements, prison populations were primarily dominated by white people, by white men. But when the civil rights movement gave us gains, the powers that be decided that something had to be done. And really, it was the war on drugs, which was started by Richard Nixon. Because, you know, Richard Nixon, I think it was Eric Haldeman, one of Nixon's men, that came up with the idea, you know, we can't outlaw blackness. So we have to find a way to slow down the gains made in the civil rights movement and find a way to mass incarcerate these people. So what they did was they came up with the war on drugs, part of the Southern strategy. You know, they increased the severity of minor crimes and stepped up the false arrest of black people. By the 80s, Ronald Reagan stepped up the drug war game, which would, you know, put even more black people in jail. Then came in the 90s, what for some reason Joe Biden, like once it called the Biden Law, which was signed into law by Bill Clinton. And this is what really, really led to mass incarceration. Now, if no one's talking about that as a candidate during this election year, why in the hell would you vote for him? It just doesn't make sense to me. Right? Now, what goes on during the drug war game still goes on. For instance, had this cop plant drugs on an innocent couple. And what happened with him? Well, white tears were flowing like the Hudson River in the New York courtroom from a crooked cop convicted of wrongdoing. Of course, his waterworks allowed him to avoid up to 4 years in jail. According to New York Daily News, Jason Aberney was a NYPD detective convicted of planting drugs on an innocent couple. He entered the court on Thursday to face his sentencing, and he gave one final plea to the judge, saying that he was ashamed of himself and pleading for mercy. Oh, he was so ashamed of himself, just pleading for mercy. Running ashamed till your ass got caught. I can't look at myself in the mirror anymore. He whined to Brooklyn Supreme Court Justice Dustin Robach. Sir, I'm begging you, please don't send me to jail. The judge was clearly moved because he only sentenced Abernini, excuse me, let me get this cast name right, Arbery, to 5 years probation and 300 years of community service. He even said each hour Arbery spends talking to officers or police recruits about his misdeeds will count as 2 hours. Even cutting him a break on the community service. I'd be damned. Essentially allowing his sentence to be reduced. I came into court this morning determined that the nature of this crime requires some jail time, the judge said. I frankly didn't expect the defendant at the 11th hour to be making these claims. Arbery was on the force for 14 years when he got busted and convicted in a bench trial by the judge. He was convicted of flaking or framing 2 people by planting crack in their car during the 2007 bus. My oath went down the window. My pride went out the window, Arbery cried. Arbery was one of 8 officers indicted in a Brooklyn South narcotics, and his trial showed the corrupt side of narcotics policing. The case involved cops getting sexual favors from junkies in exchange for drugs, as well as making false arrests to meet quotas and stack overtime. Rick Bach described Arbery's conduct as not only reprehensible, abuse of trust and authority, but the corruption of an entire criminal justice system. Yet he only gave him probation and community service. Why in the hell did he put his ass in jail? Arbery's lawyer contributed to his pity story. showing off Arbini's wife and how he had lost his job, his pension, and his health. Arbini also talked about how his young son is in therapy after threatening suicide. Makes you wonder how many of these stories this judge hears from black suspects and what they get off with. I can answer that for you real easy, not a damn thing. How many lives is this fool ruined? Then when he gets caught up, oh, we gonna have sympathy for him and send him home with probation and reduce community service. Are you kidding me? This is why we need to pay attention to detail. Watch what these race devils are doing. Oh boy, and just took me somewhere. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is the Open Eye. Yeah, I got a little bent out of shape on that one, y'all. And rightfully so. Yeah. Oh, my man, Mr. Rumble is not here today. He's here with me in spirit. I see you. Big ups, brother. Got my phone over here because I got it on the computer over here. But I'm gonna turn down my mic. All right. I often say you can't be lucky all the time, but you can be smart every day. And that's what you have to do when you're out here dealing with these race soldiers. Whatever you do, don't get caught up. Don't get caught up in your emotions and let them send you to jail, especially on something trumped up. You know, you get caught up in a traffic stop. The goal is to go home. That's the goal. You don't want to get caught up and give them, really, if you can help it, you don't want to even give them a reason to pull you over. You know, it's something I was riding with my buddy earlier this week. And when he stopped by to pick me up, he told me he knew he didn't do anything wrong. He knew damn well he had not broken any laws or anything. This cat's 72 years old. He ain't out here breaking no laws. But he saw the cops and it made him tense up. This is the psychological terrorism that we're living under. Just seeing a cop. The worst thing in the world that you want to see as a black driver is flashing police lights in your rearview mirror. We're still living under that. I remember a couple of years ago, there was a sister that was leaving an Air Force base. She had just separated from the Air Force, just got her honorable discharge. I think she had just retired. Her car was loaded with her stuff, and she's riding along, and a police car come up behind her, so she slowed down. Well, she was driving so slow that the officer turned on his lights and pulled her over. Now, he was turning on his lights and pulled her over to see if maybe there was something wrong. She got so nervous and bent out of shape. This woman did nothing wrong, but she got so nervous and bent out of shape, she broke down in tears. And she made a video about how terrified she was. You know? How terrified she was. This is the mental terrorism that we are living under. And then when someone tries to do something about it, you know, we'll march, protest, this, that, and the other for a day or two. But as soon as we calm down, it's back to business as usual. We have to keep our focus. White supremacy never rests, neither can we. Patrice Gibbs. Oh, wait a minute, I'm still with you, y'all. Let me get straight here. What's that? Okay. Yeah. No. The Open Eye is brought to you by the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets, the builders and founders of the Pearl Center, the veteran-specific building, a veteran-specific apartment building, developed and built by the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets, changing veterans' lives.
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM, nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to belong to any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
The Open Eye. You know, one of the things that we get confused on and often talk about him, we had a lot of respect for him, is Dr. King's stance on integration in education. I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically what Dr. King said is we could not trust people who look down on us with the education of our children. Because what happens is you get crap like what happened in Forsyth County School Board of Education that voted against African American history class. Okay, the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board of Education voted against the proposed mandatory African American history class. They were not going to have it mandatory. The board voted 7-1 against the class, in spite of 28 speakers and 1 council member who all spoke in favor of the class. The district already has an infusion program that includes African American studies. Okay, what that means when they have one of these infusion programs, okay, is that, you know, just they're going to teach history about everybody, you know, and they're going to have a paragraph or 2 or a day or 2 discussion on African American history, in spite of the major contributions that Africans in America have made to our history. Now, during the 4-hour meeting, 28 people who signed up to speak in favor of the class, 1 proposal was shot down. Neighbors began walking out of the meeting, and they should have. Now, like I said, you know, now here's the crazy part. 1 person said, look, we teach British literature in the 12th grade. How many people in the classroom at Northside are of British descent? 0. For us not to accept the fact that our students deserve to learn about themselves for at least 1 credit when they get it in 4 other credits is just not right. Gary Robinson, a teacher at North Forsyth, said. The school board members who rejected the proposal said they needed more time and more data. I'm on the radio. Don't cuss them out, Pat. I'm on the radio. You know. Like I said, we got to educate our own. This is what happens. For instance, New York City had to cough up $1 million in a settlement with black teachers that were targeted for their big lips and nappy hair by some racist vice principal. Now, in a perfect world, being an unrepentant racist would disqualify people like Minerva Zanka from ever working in the public school system. Sadly, not only was she gainless, she's still gainfully employed, but she's a principal. She was a principal at Pan American High School in Queens, New York, and her alleged racist behavior cost the city of New York more than $1 million after it reached a settlement on behalf of her former employees. I mean, this chick was off the chain with her bigotry. You know, she just looked for any reason to give black teachers bad evaluations. She even forced, or even tried to force, a vice principal to give 3 black teachers bad evaluations, and when he wouldn't do it, she gave him a bad evaluation. She was bound and determined. She told one teacher that he looked like a gorilla in a sweater. Told him that right to his face. That's word. And she asked another teacher about his big lips quivering whenever he talked. She also made comments about teachers' hair, saying she could never have effing nappy hair. As a result, one person got, what was it, $362,500 on a payout. Another got $500,000, and I think the vice principal that she went after got something like $50,000. Well, whatever it was, it came up to $1 million. See, we can't have these people educating our children. Keep our children away from these people, man. It's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And when I see, you know, people not take a stronger hand in their children's education, I wonder what's wrong with you. You know, I can remember mentoring at school and telling a young lady that one of the teachers had to talk to her about her son's grades and what have you. And when she found out how deep and how far it was a walk in the school, I'm not walking all the way up there, but you'll be over on the bus to go see your child in Ferris. Wake up, y'all. Damn. This is Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. All right. Oh, I got some more for y'all. Don't you worry about that. Got it right over here. Oh, I put it over to the side. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can't forget about this. Okay. As the saying goes, crap rolls downhill. Often the climate in a country and environment set from the leadership. You know, of course, what I mean by that is, you know, since Trump got elected, you have some people that are very comfortable expressing their racism publicly. For instance, the white CEO caught on camera calling the black Uber driver a effing N-word. He got fired. He should have. Hans Berglund, that's his name, Hans Berglund, a high-profile CEO, was identified as a passenger caught on video calling a black Uber driver an effing N-word after not being allowed to sit in the front seat of the vehicle. Now, the Uber driver, Randy Clark, said that, you know, he wasn't comfortable with having passengers sit in the front seat because he'd been attacked before. And I can understand that. And he asked him, would you mind sitting in the back? And Hans replied, no, I don't like sitting in the back. I'm not sitting back there. He said, look, I don't like being sitting in the back. He stopped allowing passengers to sit in the front after he was assaulted. He was not comfortable with that. And this is when Berglund snapped. Are you effing serious? Are you kidding me? And when Clark asked the irate passenger if he doesn't mind canceling, he was going to refund him. He was not going to put up with that mess. And that's when my man came out busting up. Oh, you effing N-word. Well, the company that he worked for, he's CEO of a tent company. And his company said, in light of the events past Friday, Argo Plasma CEO Hans has been relieved of his duties while the company performs an internal investigation. The incident is not at all reflective of Agroplasma's values and ethics. Our relationship with our employees, customers, and the community are the cornerstone of our success. We are doing everything in our power to rebuild the trust and repair the harm that has resulted in this incident. So see, you know, they don't always get away with that mess, right? And this one got fired. Of course, he came out and said, he's very sorry. This is not who he is. He's never, you know, behaved like that before, and he's not the rape by the Chinese seat down. All right. He never behaved like that before, and this is not the person that he is, and you know, he's so ashamed of himself, and what have you. Wasn't ashamed until you got fired. Wasn't ashamed. Isn't there something? See, that's why I don't do apologies, y'all. That's why I don't do apologies. You slap me in my face and then apologize. My face still stings. Makes me think of what Maya Angelou said. If someone tells you who they are, believe them. Well, Hans, you told us who you are when you called that man an effing N-word, and I believe you. I definitely believe you. I believe you to be the racist fool that you showed yourself to be. Open eye. Will Donald Trump be the first president who was impeached and then re-elected to a second term? Well, you know, look, of course he was acquitted in the Senate. That's no surprise. The House, which is dominated by Democrats, impeached him, and rightfully so. The Senate, dominated by Republicans. You know, Republicans outnumbered Democrats in the Senate. They could have saw Donald Trump, like Donald Trump said it himself, you know, he could commit a crime in Times Square in front of everybody. And these fools will still vote for him, still support him. It's amazing. Well, he's trying to make sure, or his minions are, that he is reelected. Trump allies are handing out envelopes of cash to black voters at pro-Trump events. Yeah, that's right. You go to a pro-Trump event and you could get some money if you're a black person, because he wants your vote. They'll go show up at one of these events, and well, Politico reported that allies of President Donald Trump have been targeting black voters by hosting events with cash giveaways. That's right. The first event was held in Cleveland, where attendees won prizes that included envelopes stuffed with hundreds of dollars. The cash giveaways were organized by a nonprofit, the Urban Revitalization Coalition, which allows donors to remain anonymous. So you don't know where the money really came from because the donors are anonymous. Allies of President Trump been hosting events in predominantly black communities where they hand out envelopes of cash while praising the commander-in-chief. At the first event, which was held in Cleveland in December, attendees with winning tickets would win cash. And this is according to Politico. While the events are hosted with the intention to honor the president, the orange disaster, I hate calling their food the president, the giveaways are run by a nonprofit. The CEO of Urban Revitalization Coalition, Darrell Scott, has been one of Trump's closest and most prominent supporters. And he's the co-chair of Black Voices for Trump, a group that campaigns for the president in black communities. He told Politico that the gifts given away at the event last month were between $300 and $500. And if someone received more than that, they were made to fill out a W-9 form to comply with tax law. Scott, who's a pastor, declined to name the donors funding the effort, which by law he doesn't have to. I'd rather not. They prefer to remain anonymous. The organizers say the events are intended to promote economic development. The hell you going to develop? What economic development? The hell you going to develop with $300? Are you serious? Economic development, $300. Now, a similar event is scheduled for the Virginia Union University, but it was canceled according to a statement from the school. Organizers initially told the university that the event would be an economic development discussion, providing over $30,000 in cash giveaways to local residents to help stimulate economic and community development while celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. King. These some slimy ass people, boy. Damn. And there's a black minister, Reverend Chickenfoot. What's this fool's name? Because I want y'all to remember his name. Wait a minute. I gotta go back and read his name. Darrell Scott. He's the CEO, write this down, of Urban Revitalization Coalition. Pastor Darrell Scott, Reverend Chickenfoot. I hope you go to hell with gasoline drawers on, Reverend Darrell Scott. That's for damn sure. What a sellout, man. $300. I tell you what, though. I go down there to your event and get my $300 and stand right up there and give you a finger. You think I wouldn't? You sell out Negro tea and cheese Louise. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is Open Eye. Yeah, these foods something else, y'all. Yeah, why you having chicken foot? You ain't doing nothing else. You know, I swear, there's a time that black church was an instrument of our liberation. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. Nothing but a hustle now. Yes, crap rolls downhill. The orange disaster has no integrity. On top of having no integrity, he has sullied the Presidential Medal of Freedom. You know, it just perfectly encapsulates the Trump administration's massive and absolute incompetence when Rush Limbaugh and 100-year-old Tuskegee Airmen are in the same room, and Rush Limbaugh is the one going home with a Presidential Medal of Freedom. You know what? Anybody out there that received a Presidential Medal of Freedom should give it back. You know, and this is what I wrote about that on Facebook. The Orange Disaster given known white supremacist Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom is no different than Hitler giving Goebbels the Iron Cross. The Medal of Freedom means nothing now. If Rush Limbaugh can get one, it's like, you know, you might as well go down to the carnival or the corner store with a couple of 50-cent pieces, a few quarters, and get you a medal out of the vending machine, out of the bubblegum machine. The Medal of Freedom means nothing now. Maybe he did it because, you know, Rush Limbaugh has stage 4 cancer. You know, I wish death on no one. I don't see anybody get cancer. It's a terrible thing. 2 months, you know, I heard that crap about 2 wrongs don't make a right, and what I got no sympathy for Rush Limbaugh. You know, karma's a mother. He's one of the most nastiest, evil, vile people whose voice has been across the radio airwaves. Who've ever been allowed to stand on the public stage. I want somebody to tell me, oh, that's you know, the man has cancer. I don't give a damn. The best thing Rush Limbaugh could do for the world is leave it. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is The Open Eye. Yeah, that was rough, wasn't it? Like I said, I really don't give a damn. I have no respect for that racist bastard. Oh, I'm on Facebook Live. I can say you straight out on Facebook Live. The hell with that son of a bitch. You know, you roast the hell with gasoline drawers on. Because I would say that on the air. I think I might.
The mission of Delaware Center for Homeless Vets centers around 2 main goals: housing and supportive services. DCHV's housing goal is to provide safe, affordable housing coupled with supportive services for each veteran in need. DCHV's supportive service goal is to reintegrate, educate, empower, and advocate for homeless veterans and their families who are at risk of homelessness, while simultaneously strengthening the impact of other community-based organizations. By providing housing first and ending the cycle of homelessness for a veteran and supplying them with supportive services that they themselves identify as needed to combat future homelessness, we are able to fully support their long-term goals of obtaining recovery, economic self-sufficiency, independence, and community reintegration.
The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. There are some other topics that I did want to cover today, but those are some things that I wanted my partner in consciousness, Nosaroma, here for, because there would be a really heavy discussion on the topics that I had planned on, but unfortunately Nosaroma wasn't able to make it today. One topic that is hot right now, and it should be, is sorry-ass Gayle King. Now, in an interview that aired on Tuesday, King talked to Lisa Leslie, basketball legend Lisa Leslie, on CBS this morning about late NBA legend Kobe Bryant, who was killed in a helicopter crash last month. And she brought up his 2003 sexual assault charge. She asked if Leslie, as a fellow basketball legend and a woman, felt that the charge, which was dismissed, complicated his legacy. It's not complicated at all for me, explained Leslie. Oh yeah, her name is Lisa Leslie, who said Brian wasn't the kind of person that would do something to violate a woman or be aggressive in that way. That's just not the person I know, she replied to Gayle King. King later asked Leslie if she thought that even addressing that part of Brian's history was fair. To that, Leslie said that she believed the media should be more respectful about it. If you had questions about it, you had many years to ask him that. I don't think it's something that we should keep hanging over his legacy or bring up since he's dead. You know, I have to really take my hat off to Lisa Leslie for the kind, ladylike way that she handled Gayle King's slimy ass. Gayle King, a well-known protector of white predator Harvey Weinstein, and just like my boy pointed out, I've seen some of the photos of her booed up on Harvey Weinstein. And she says nothing about this vicious sexual predator. Neither her or her girl, mentor, and whatever else, who knows what else it is, Oprah Winfrey. Yeah, I mispronounced her name on purpose with a strong modicum of disrespect for her. Listen, sorry, hussies. Nothing but Negro peeing dead wenches with a large disrespect and hatred for black men, obviously, because that's all they go after. Look what Oprah did. Went after Michael Jackson, who's dead. Pushed this documentary that sullied his legend after he was, proven innocent by the FBI. The FBI, a well-known racist organization, is not going around proving the innocence of black men. They said they had nothing on Michael Jackson. None of the allegations were true. Stale Gayle King. See, here's part of her motivation. As far as the influence that she and Oprah have in the black community, that's done, and it's been done for quite some time. Because see, in their eyes, black men are toxic. That's why they keep going after them. Like Oprah got back down because she got dragged so hard for trying to produce another documentary on Russell Simmons. She got dragged for that. Sorry, asked Gayle King. Oh, and by the way, when she was doing that interview with the wonderful Lisa Leslie, she made sure to slip in there that Kobe Bryant's accuser was a victim. The hussy was not a victim. If anything, she tried to victimize Kobe Bryant. This girl was a sleazy, slimy slut who has slept with. When she went for the rape charge and they used the rape kit on her, she had several men's semen in her drawers. She run around having sex with men and not even changing her nasty ass drawers. And Gayle King calls her a victim. Well, Gayle King got dragged on the internet, on Snoop Dogg and Little Boise cussed her ass out high fashion. Not only they did that, but quite a few other people, lesser and better known than those two, dragged her through the mud. From what I understand, she's even getting death threats. I don't go along with that. But Oprah Winfrey came out in tears and said she can't even sleep. She's having a hard time sleeping, and Yeah, it's just awful what's happening to her. Well, guess what? I had no damn sympathy for your sorry ass. Because you brought this on yourself with your hatred and disrespect of black men. Case in point, Kobe Bryant right now, who you took the opportunity to show your white masters what a mammy Negro pen did whence you are. And like I said, I look at those photos of her and Harvey Weinstein and Oprah Winfrey. Did the three of them get together and do the freaky thing? The way they booed up on him? Are you kidding me? No respect for that whatsoever. Anybody that does, shame on you. You know, like what I had to say, when you go to hell. Because these are just some sorry, sorry people. You talk about traitors to the black community. Traitors to womanhood. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is the Open Eye. A topic that I'm going to cover more deeply when my partner is here is something I posted on Facebook, and I think you will understand why I opened the show with this. Is why is there an effort to deny our blackness in Mother Africa? You don't feel connected to your African roots? Well, here's why I do. Because black history doesn't simply begin in America. Because embracing my African lineage doesn't devalue the power of my African American roots. Because distancing myself from my African ancestry is legit hurtful to my ancestors. Because in the grand scheme of history, we weren't in Africa that long ago. African Americans have only been in America, what, 400 years? Oh yes, I'm well aware that there were Africans here in the American continents before Columbus, but they were Africans. Our great scholars teach us so. Garvey said, "What is a tree without its roots?" Our unique experience. The experience of black people in America is completely, absolutely, and totally unique. Blacks in America are the only non-immigrants in this country. We were invited here. That invitation was very dubious. Blacks are the only people who came here by force. No other people were packed in the holds of slave ships like cargo for months in filth and human waste and disease. Millions being lost en route. Now, some would say not as many Africans came here as the records show, but that's not so. First of all, you have to realize that 1/3 of the African continent was decimated. You have to understand that. Look at it logically, you know. We're not saying 100 million, and the number starts at 100 million, but 100 million Africans in the slave Atlantic and the transatlantic slave trade Holocaust, because that was our Holocaust, were lost. No matter how many made it here, at least 100 million were lost. Now that number may seem high to some people, You know, you be careful when you're dealing in large numbers. But take this into consideration. The Congo was ruled by Leopold of Belgium from 1895 to 1908, roughly 15 years. In that time, 8 to 30 million Africans were murdered. 15 years. One country. We're talking about in the transatlantic slave trade from the whole western region of Africa over 400 years. And you think the number of 100 million is too high? I don't think so. No other people arrived on the American shores to see their women raped and defiled, their men stripped of their manhood and any semblance of dignity. No other people had their heritage, culture, religion, name, and the most unifying force of any people, their language brutally beaten out of them by the slave master's lash. No other people, no other group of people suffered the horrors of plantation life, working from can't see in the morning to can't see at night, under the overseer's lash, being forced to watch the slave master hang a young pregnant slave woman from a tree by her feet, her swollen belly slashed open with a sword and the unborn child, brutally snatched from her womb, its head smashed on the ground, a common practice to instill fear. No other people saw their families torn asunder, their children sold off at the whim of the slave master. No other people suffered the indignities of Jim Crowism, segregation, discrimination, second-class citizenship, and legally sanctioned oppression. No other people have been terrorized not only by the Ku Klux Klan, but by the marauding gangs of whites who could be stirred to violence on the strength of a rumor, and rampage through black communities, indiscriminately committing murder and destruction with little or no fear of being brought to justice. No other people have been lynched, castrated, and mutilated. No other people have been systematically denied the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in America but black people. By all rights of human nature. By all rights of human nature. Black people in America, especially those of us that know our history, should be angry, bitter, and murderously vengeful. It is a miracle of the Creator that we are not. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is The Open Eye. All right, time to close the show. Yeah. Well, time to move on. Sometimes to move on, you know, you have to realize what you have to do to move on. A glass that is full cannot hold more water. It must be empty first. And remember, as I always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. I'm Patrice Gibbs. This is The Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. Well, I went a little over. I want to thank everyone for joining me on Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me on The Open Eye. I will be back next week with more fire, more things to open your eye and lead you out of the abyss of oppression. I'm Patrice Gibbs.